What's going on, FA Nation? Welcome back. This is the first Fantasy Alarm NASCAR DFS podcast of the 2024 season. Dan Malin, and as always, I am joined by the FSWA three-time NASCAR Writer of the Year, Matt Selz. Matt, I can't say silly season. I mean, it was just a very short off season, but it's over. We are back once again. It was just 3 months ago we were talking Phoenix for the 2023 finale, and here we are, 2 weeks away from Daytona, and here we are just talking the Clash for this weekend's race and doing a full season preview as well, which drivers landed on new teams, what drivers get called up, who's getting sent down. But overall, how was the offseason for you?
It was short, man. These things just keep getting shorter every year, it seems. Like, I know you and I get busy with, we have full-time jobs outside of this. Many people know I do a whole lot of stuff around the site. Also work for, some other stuff. Dan has an actual real-life big kid job outside of this that keeps him pretty busy. So, it's just crazy to think about that December and January are the only 2 months on the calendar without racing, right? Like, it's nuts. I know we don't talk F1, but the F1 schedule is getting longer too. Big news there. Lewis Hamilton moving to Ferrari at the end of the year.
Such a weird, news breaking item to come out when I'm awake at 5:30 in the morning.
It's also weird because it broke twice. I know we're talking NASCAR here, but real quick, it broke twice because you sent it to me at 5 o'clock this morning. We're recording this Thursday, 1st of February. And I was all over it, and it looked like it was like Mercedes had told their people a couple hours later. Ferrari was locked in, like everybody had announced it. And then all of a sudden at 4 this afternoon, I don't know if they felt slighted by EPL deadline day or whatever, but at 4 this afternoon, F1 tweets out breaking news, Lewis Hamilton to Ferrari. And I'm like, this happened 8 hours ago. It's not breaking. So I don't know. I had to explain it to a friend of mine who his soccer chat got taken over by F1, and I comped it to Brett Favre going to the Vikings late in his career. It's about the close, for non-F1 people. That's about the closest you can. I mean, it's not like Brady going to the Bucs because they're not rivals, right? It's like
it would kind of be like if Brady went to the Jets
or the Bills or the Dolphins.
But because I feel like if you kind of look at Ferrari, they had really high expectations with Leclerc and Sainz. They've had some success, and both drivers have gotten wins. But
until it comes to pit road, and then
at the same time, it's Ferrari, and you should be contending for titles. And Max Verstappen and Red Bull just not have let anyone do that.
Also, apparently, I found out today Lewis Hamilton lives in Monaco and drives Ferraris when he's at his house in Monaco, which is also where Leclerc lives. So, whatever. But yeah, so silly season for NASCAR. Was it really that much of a silly season, or did we really kind of know a lot of the stuff before the season ended? I mean, SHR, I feel like kind of dragged it out a little bit into the off season, but I also kind of feel like we knew a decent amount before the season ended as to who was going to be in the cars. There was a lot of moving pieces.
We were talking before we recorded about how SHR nowadays is essentially just the 2022 All-Star lineup for the Xfinity Series.
Basically. I mean, you've got Josh Berry replacing Kevin Harvick in the 4-car. Noah Gragson replaces Eric Almirola, who I guess is just disappearing from everything.
He's got some part-time dates lined up with Joe Gibbs Racing for Xfinity, but that's it.
Yeah, just odd, I guess. And then you've got Briscoe's back for whatever that's worth, and Ryan Preece is back. But man, that's a fall from where they were 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, that is. I mean, I know they're getting younger, sort of. Barry's not as young as we think he is. No. And I guess good for Noah Gragson. He got a second shot.
Arguably got an upgrade after getting fired last year.
I mean, yeah. Although SHR wasn't that good last year, so we'll see. Colleague is completely weird.
Yeah, I don't get what they're really trying to do, but
In Colleague to go to Rick Ware Racing for whatever reason, I don't know. So they replaced Haley in the 31 car with Daniel Hemrick. So that's right. Malin over here is going to have to avoid trying to play him each week. The 16 car, which was piloted by Allmendinger, who's now gone back down to Xfinity to run a full-time schedule down there. The 16 car is just going to be a bunch of dudes just filling in all season.
Dudes.
We'll have to see who's lined up for what race, because they can't even tell you right now who, like most of the races, that car is going to be run by.
They announced 7 for SPG earlier today, Thursday. He's running both Talladega races, Coda, Watkins Glen, Chicago, because he won it, Vegas, and I think Charlotte. And that's it. But yeah, other than that, the 16.
Yeah, but that's like, there's 31 other races I got to go fill that car for.
Yeah.
So, John Hunter Nemechek takes over the 42 at Legacy Motor Club, which, by the way, switching from Chevy to Toyota. That's right. Jimmy Johnson, who won 7 titles with Chevrolet, and Richard Petty are converting to Toyota. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Do you think, because a few years ago, he left the Cup Series because he said that he wanted to get back to feeling like what it was like to be a winner. Goes down to the Truck Series, has a ton of success in the Truck Series, although a lot of people will argue that his success in a lot of those truck races was dependent on Kyle Busch letting him win. Had a really strong year last year with Joe Gibbs Racing in the Xfinity Series, but then he comes up and we saw Legacy really struggle, did not look very good last year. Do we think that the move to Toyota is a big upgrade for them? Because when I heard that John Hunter was coming back up but going to Legacy, I thought, he just made this great trajectory, kind of reinventing himself in the truck in the Xfinity Series, and then now he's coming back up, and doesn't seem like it's going to be a great opportunity for him to win. I thought he would have waited for a seat to open up at Joe Gibbs Racing, because Toyota, TRD in general, doesn't have a lot of young hot prospects outside of maybe Jesse Love.
Yeah, I mean, well, the problem is, how stacked do you want to get when you have the 4 you have at Joe Gibbs Racing on the top tier, right?
2 of them are kind of old, though.
I mean, yeah, Truex nearly retired last year and then didn't, and Denny is, I don't know. We'll see. Obviously, Denny owns his own Toyota team, 2311. Those guys aren't really going anywhere either, so there's not a lot of open seats, and now you get one open. But I do think that John Hunter driving for Toyota last year in Xfinity will help a little bit. Obviously, those cars drive completely differently than the Cup cars, but that's something to watch out for. I know Legacy was terrible last year. That's because they had no funding from Chevy. That's why they made the move to Toyota. They weren't getting any help from Chevy. They were a back marker team. So we got Carson Hocevar is in the 77 this year, kicking Ty Dillon down, who I think is in the Truck Series. Did he wind up in the Truck Series?
I think he took over Matt Benedetto's ride with Rackley.
I think
that's what happened.
Yeah, I think that's
drives number 25. Yep.
Yeah. Kaz Grala's back for 25 races for Rick Ware, so congrats on that, I guess. Josh Williams, otherwise known as an extra from Eastbound and Down, is doing a partial schedule in the 16. So that's kind of the and then Zane Smith somehow wound up with a 3rd car for Spire too, which they're counting as the 77, but they're also saying Carson Hocevar's in the 77, so I'm not entirely sure what the 3rd car for Spire. Oh, it's a 3rd car, but it's put on by Trackhouse, I think. Zane Smith is technically driving a Trackhouse car, but it's the 3rd entry for Spire.
Yeah.
I don't know how these things.
Kind of interesting moves for Spire, because didn't they buy out Kyle Busch Motorsports?
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Although that technically still exists as a grassroots thing, is what Kyle Busch said. Basically, for him and his son to go drive around and race in grassroots. So
Good for them.
Good for them. So we got a lot of moving parts. Probably wasn't the most intriguing thing to listen to, but it's kind of important because I guess equipment for me in the Cup Series matters a little bit less than it does, say, in the Truck Series or Xfinity, right? Like,
It's fair.
we all knew the last few years whoever was in the 51 truck was going to win, right? Didn't really matter who was
Tell that to Jack Wood.
fair. But generally speaking, I mean, there are back markers in the Cup Series. If you are new to NASCAR DFS, welcome. There are back markers in the Cup Series, but I feel like there's like it's more of a split field, like 50-50 rather than like 10 different tiers of equipment.
I feel like what you're trying to say is there is a much wider gap in the Truck and Xfinity series between the good equipment and the bad equipment. Whereas there is good equipment and bad equipment in the Cup Series, but it's not as wide of a gap.
The bad equipment can still finish top 25 and not get lapped. That's not happening in the Truck or Xfinity series.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there are wild cards, but do we want to recap? I mean, DraftKings and FanDuel didn't change any of their setup. Yes, you can still play on FanDuel despite the announcement that DraftKings is the exclusive offer of daily fantasy sports for NASCAR. I don't know what that means because FanDuel still has Clash contests up. So either they didn't get the memo or they don't care. Probably the latter. So, nothing's changing in the scoring there. Nothing's changing in the setup on those. Are we changing anything for content there on your side there, Malin?
Not particularly. You and I were talking before the podcast that the playbooks are going to look a little bit different this year. If you're familiar with, what the NHL and the NBA guys have done.
And MLB, I think, has rolled out the cheat sheet.
Yeah, it's going to be more of a cheat sheet format, which is basically just going to highlight pretty much our 6 to 10 favorite plays across the pricing spectrum. At the bottom, there will be a table that will have pretty much every guy that would have made a previous playbook, but he will just appear in a much more consolidated table, highlighted by, I can even touch on my favorite cash and tournament-only plays, even though I think NASCAR DFS, because the variance, especially at the lower levels, is much more of a tournament-only kind of DFS.
You want to talk variance in Xfinity? Because it's off the
chart. But, excited as always, looking forward to the season. I just don't think my excitement really kicks in until March because we start with the Clash this weekend, which we're going to talk about shortly. Exhibition race, 2/3 of the drivers that you're seeing on DraftKings and FanDuel, they're going to make the field. Like 13 drivers are going to get booted, so they're like you can't even play them. It's hard to pass at this track, but also like if you have good track position, you better not lose it.
You can, although I will say Kyle Busch found ways to pass last year. He rode the outside and drove up from it. But we'll break down the Clash here a little bit more in a bit. But yes, for the Cup, the playbook again will take the cheat sheet format. So I'll be writing up, like Malin said, 6 to 10 of my favorite plays from each. Not from each total, but it'll be broken down into like the high value, mid-tier value plays, stuff like that. The write-ups at the top will still be there. So my strategy write-up, practice results, the tables, those things will still be there. I'm just not going to write up 18 dudes a week.
Because you're writing up half the field, essentially.
Yeah, basically. And by June, what can we say about Kyle Larson we haven't already said, right? Like, projections will start out as just Cup. We'll have to investigate the other series further, but Cup projections will be back. We'll have the weekly pod here. We're still kind of settling on timing for it, so we'll keep you posted on that one as to whether it'll be an early week pod that does a whole race preview and betting preview, or if it'll be post qualifying to solidify some stuff. We're trying to sort that out. Core plays I think will be tacked on to the bottom of the cheat sheet, but I will get clarity on that for the Daytona 500 for sure there. So most of it's staying the same, just kind of consolidating the playbook a little bit, make it easier for y'all to read. And then if you have any questions about anybody you want to play, we are always there in Discord.
Yeah.
So, whether it be strategy, whether it be, hey, this is my lineup, what do you think of it? Whether it be between these guys, whatnot. But I do want to touch on weather for the Clash. That's right. We're talking weather.
I've heard it was looking better, right?
It is looking better, but we're talking atmospheric river this weekend is what I've heard.
Nice.
That's going to be there at some point, and I think it keeps getting pushed a little later on Sunday, which is good, but they will have rain tires on the cars. However, they will not have wipers. They will not have rain guards. They won't have like the full-blown rain equipment. They're just going to have rain tires. So what does that mean? It means if it's actually raining, they're not going to be racing. However, they won't have to wait as long for the track to dry before they get out there because they'll have rain tires, so they'll still have traction. And this track apparently dries very quickly, according to Bob Pockers, because they've had rain there like all week, and he said the track was way drier than the parking lot outside.
Good to know.
Is good to know, because he also didn't know how they were going to use air tightens on the track. So I don't know. It is a late start for the festivities. I think practice is at like 6 Eastern Saturday. And then you get heat races Saturday evening.
Yeah.
And the heat races, by the way, determine most of the field for Sunday's Clash. Then there's a last chance qualifier Sunday, I think at 6:30 Eastern, I believe, where the top, I think, couple drivers, I don't think it's very many, finish in the last chance qualifier, make the main field for the Clash, which is at, I believe, like 8. Let me double check. I have the schedule up right here. The Clash is at 8 Eastern on Sunday night on Fox. So a little bit different format this year. We'll have to see how it how it works out. At least they're letting fans in for practice and heat races, because they weren't going to do that originally. There's also a NASCAR Mexico Series race that's happening.
Is that in Los Angeles?
Yeah. I think it's also in the Coliseum.
Oh, is it really?
Like I think it's a short track race.
Oh, nice.
On
Suarez running that one?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I want to say maybe I saw something that he was, but I don't want to. That's obviously not DFS related, but yes, there is a NASCAR Mexico Series race there, which is that sounds pretty awesome.
So, as far as bankroll goes, are you kind of playing it like this weekend? Like, I have reservations in contests, and I don't even know if I'm going to actually play them.
Yeah, I'm playing pretty light. I mean, the format is tricky, right? Because here's how I'm looking at it. I'm building lineups, and I'm probably going to tell people to play now, not to toot my own horn, but I have had pretty good luck writing playbooks for the Clash, and then guys I put in the playbook make it. And this goes back to when it was at Daytona and it was a wild card race, like all over the place. That being said, I'm playing light, and I'm probably going to feel pretty good about 4 to 5 of the guys that I have in my lineup, and then I'll check on it certainly after the heat races. And then obviously, depending on the last chance qualifier and who makes it, if there's anybody that I want to slot in now. Now, keep in mind, you make it in the last chance qualifying, you're starting in the back. So it doesn't, like on a track like this, we're not going after position differential. It's real hard to pass. It's a 1/4 mile track. Yes. Like you thought you got lapped quickly at Martinsville or Bristol. This is half that size. So yeah, I'll play light this week. I mean, it's fun. We're getting our feet wet. We have cars on the track. Then we get Daytona in a couple of
But
weeks.
again, it's another track that we advise people to play light because the Daytona 500 is such a momentum killer for new people coming to NASCAR DFS. And then they followed it up with Atlanta right after Daytona. This is why I'm saying I don't really get excited for NASCAR DFS probably until March.
Yeah, because again, if you're new, Atlanta is just a smaller Daytona. Basically, it's been.
Kind of.
I mean, the last couple races have been cleaner, but it's still kind of nuts. Things don't really get predictable until March when they're out in Vegas and then Phoenix and then Bristol and Coda. Wow, Coda's early this year. Nice.
So if we were to just kind of do a quick preview of the driver pool.
Yes.
Who are some guys? Like, obviously, a team like Joe Gibbs Racing is going to jump off the page at us just because historically that's a team that does thrive and do well on short, flat tracks. And even Martin Truex Jr. won this last year.
Right. Yes. And the fact that Larson is pricier than Truex on both sites is interesting to me. I mean, I know he's quick, but like, it's just surprising. He had a decent night there last year. He finished 5th, but not really laps led or fastest laps if you're playing DK. I don't know. The Truex sticks out. He won it, obviously. The one that really sticks out, and I think and I tweeted this out, I think he may be the most played guy.
Bell?
Bubba Wallace.
Really?
I think the people that actually watched the race last year realized that man led almost 40 laps.
Yeah.
And then on the late restart was bumped out of the way and could not get back in line and wound up finishing, I think, like 16th. But he was super salty. Yeah. He was super salty at the end. Like they showed that clip of him just sitting and stewing in his car at the end of the race. He had a really quick car, and then he got bumped out the way. I'm not sure that happens. He's also Toyota, so if you like the Toyotas of the JGR camp, there's not really a reason to not like Toyotas owned by one of their drivers, right? I do think Priest is interesting. He's a short track guy. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think people who want Toyota but want to be the smartest guy in the room will play Bell, but I'm not sure that's the best play.
Yeah, and I just go with Bell just because drives for the team that thrives on these tracks, has historically at New Hampshire been outstanding. And New Hampshire is 4 times the length that that Sunday's race will be, but still flatter track. It's the same aero package or has been in the past.
I mean, to give you an idea, last year he started 23rd in the Clash, finished 13th with 4 fastest laps. He was 9,700 and put up 42 points.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, we're not looking for 5X here because A, the track is small. B, it's not a lot of laps. And like, even if you win it and lead out, I'm not sure that you're hitting. I mean, what did Truex put up? Truex started second, finished first, had 14 fastest laps, led 25, put up 59 points at 7,300. So he got there, but I'm pretty sure he's the only one in the field that got the 5X last year.
I'm really intrigued to see what the boys from RFK Racing bring to the heat races on Sunday and then the actual Clash on Sunday.
Yeah, Kez and Buescher.
Buescher won 3 races last year, and I think coming into last season he had 2 career wins to his name heading into 2023. And over the summer and in the fall came up with 3 really clutch wins.
Buescher finished 4th here last year.
And Kez had a pretty good run too, I believe. Keselowski finished fourth from what I'm looking at for 46 points after starting ninth. And also Keselowski in general.
I think those are the duels.
Am I looking at the duels?
I think.
Oh, I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Yep. Same with me.
My bad.
The duels for Daytona you can also play, but we usually don't.
But at the same time, my point stands. Like RFK and Keselowski were coming on strong last year, and it's going to be his third year with the team. A lot of people kind of feel like he gets that first win with RFK Racing this year. 8,500.
He said on Race Hub, he was a guest host on Race Hub last week and said they're gunning for 2 cars in the championship 4.
Wow.
That I mean, it's great to have dreams,
high expectations.
Man, but,
I mean, that's Hendrick Motorsports expectations, you know.
I mean, Gibbs came out and said they want 4 cars in the Final 4. I believe them when they say it. I'm not sure I believe RFK yet. 1, really. I could see 1 in the Final 4. I'm a little confused as to why Buescher's cheaper than Kez.
My only explanation for it on DraftKings, at least, I haven't looked at FanDuel's pricing. Name recognition for the most part. Even though Buescher does have 4 wins in the last 2 years to Keselowski's 0.
I mean, Buescher had more top 10s last year, outscored him in DK scoring.
Yeah.
And was the faster car based on most metrics most of the season. So I don't know if we don't have to hold back for playoffs, like Buescher's in the playoffs, and I don't know if that's playing a role in it, but it's just weird.
Any potential dark horses with just a few minutes left? I know we're more so previewing, I guess, our content and season in general, but I do want to kind of get your thoughts on maybe some guys that you like. Chase Briscoe's kind of jumping off the page at me at 7,400, but at the same time, I'm not sure how much faith I have in those SHR cars.
So if Suarez is in fact running the Mexico Series race,
this is a good point. Yeah,
he may get more track time than everybody else. I don't know. What Todd Father? Do we go back to the Todd Father for race 1 of 2024? I don't know.
I looked at some charts based on speed last year, and Gilliland at his price tag wasn't awful. I just don't think he had a good finish or was able to move up during the actual clash. I just think everybody looks faster in the heat races just because there are so few cars on track, and it's easier to post a good speed. Whereas for the actual clash, you're in it with about 23 other drivers, and you don't get to perform as well as your car was to get you that far. So
yeah, I mean, here's one. What about Gregson? He's coming in with a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah,
he's got a lot to prove. He had a solid run at the Clash last year. Started 13th, finished 14th.
Finished 14th, yeah.
I mean, he was 5,500, so it's not. I mean, again, you're not looking for 5x. You just want guys who can finish top 10 out of a top 23 field to have a good shot at putting up value. So I don't know. I think there's some interesting names here. Austin Dillon at 7,100 could be a sleeper because I'm not sure anybody realizes that guy finished second last year.
Who is going to be with about a minute left? Who's your pick to win? DraftKings Sportsbook has the 2 Kyles listed at 9-1 as the co-favorites.
Kyle, I mean, I would probably lean more on Kyle Busch than Kyle Larson. But it's close.
I think I'm going to take the reigning defending Cup Series champion Ryan Blaney, who I do like his odds at a solid 14-1.
Yeah, he also got cropped out of a New York Knicks.
I saw that with Bubba Wallace. That's great.
Yeah, he was sitting courtside with Bubba Wallace, and the Knicks only put up Bubba's picture. And then Ryan Blaney quote tweeted it, and somebody in the comments hilariously said, Don't worry about it, Blaney. The Knicks don't know what champions are. I thought that was priceless. I thought that was excellent.
Any final thoughts?
Bubba Wallace at 18-1, intriguing. I don't know. Truex. I mean, Truex won it last year, 10-1. Like, you're getting a little bit of a discount for a guy who won it the previous year. So I don't know. It's shaping up to be, I feel like, a very balanced 2024 season. I think we're going to have a lot of different winners.
I just hope that, between the 6 races between Daytona, Dega, and Atlanta, we do get some long shot wins at those tracks. That's always nice. It was fun seeing Ricky Stenhouse get the win last year. Everyone's always pulling for Corey LaJoie to pull something out of his ass when we head to these super speedway type tracks. So, but Matt, it was a good kickoff, good preview for the Clash. At least we'll be in the Discord all weekend. Matt will have a write up for Sunday's race as well. Again, play light. It's an exhibition race. It doesn't matter. But Matt, best of luck to you this weekend, and best of luck to the FA Nation.